Dr. Wang Gang, President of CAST, the China Association for Science and Technology, distinguished colleagues and delegates to the conference. Greetings to you. Good afternoon, good evening. It's a great pleasure to be with you. And it's a pleasure to speak at the closing ceremony of a conference dedicated to matters at the heart of science and technology development, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the role of the science community. So I'd like to speak in particular about the mission of the scientific community in relation to its pivotal role in development. So the question then really is, what are the mission and responsibilities of the scientific community to promote realization of the Sustainable Development Goals? In answering this question, it's important to take stock of the current landscape. Where are we now? And what are the factors shaping the role of scientists? First, it is clear, for example, from the 2019 Human Development Report, that progress towards the SDGs has been extremely uneven with respect to the different goals and also with respect to different regions in the world. Secondly, inequality is a persistent challenge which rears its head within all of the goals and represents a serious obstacle to progress. Thirdly, we have the reality of the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, or the COVID-19 pandemic, which has set back progress significantly. So just one example is that 71 million people have been thrown into extreme poverty as a result of the pandemic. Inequalities that are already there have been exacerbated. But the pandemic also highlights the central role of science in responding to emergencies, enhancing resilience. And so, in a sense, there is a lesson that is being learned about the role of science in resolving and addressing major challenges. The role of science and technology in relation to the SDGs is more than simply that of one of a number of contributing sectors. In fact, as the Global Sustainable Development Report makes clear, it is one of four levers to accelerate progress towards the SDGs, working in a complementary way with the other three levers, namely governance, economy and finance, and individual and collective action. With regard to governance and individual and collective action, the science-society policy nexus is a vital one in which scientists have a duty to ensure that the public and policymakers are well informed of science. So the question then is the following. Well, what are the mission and responsibilities of science? What is our strategy? And what is our contribution to achieving the SDGs? I'd like to address four key objectives and actions that should be taken by the scientific community. The first one, that of working towards greater inclusivity and closer cooperation and integration. The undeniable importance of transdisciplinary approaches that include the natural and social sciences and technology, and which are multi-sectoral in nature, cannot be denied. This has got to be embraced by the scientific community and other sectors. Lack of integration of knowledge hinders a proper understanding of the challenges embedded in the goals and also challenges to policy development. For example, the socio-economic dimensions of climate change or the relevance of engineering solutions. Secondly, we must discourage what one might call the nationalization of scientific systems, and on the other hand, strengthen international scientific cooperation, in particular reaching into those parts of the world that perhaps have weak science systems and are not well connected to the global scientific community. Weakness of science systems hampers effective brokering and communication of scientific knowledge, and hence mobilization of science in policy development. The second theme is that of revisiting the goals post-COVID, in other words, learning from the pandemic and reconsidering our approaches to the SDGs. It is important, as we have seen, to work towards recovery and resilience that are equitable and inclusive. I refer here to the United Nations Framework of Action as an immediate response to the pandemic. Let me quote from the UN report on building back better. I quote, "Building a better post-pandemic future will require social and economic interventions today for more resilience. Recovery efforts must accelerate rather than undermine, for example, decarbonization, protection of natural capital, gender and social equality and inclusion." End quote. Also, I'd like to highlight the work of the International Science Council, together with IASA, the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, on advancing forward sustainably, in the words of the UN. That is, determining pathways to transformation that aim at building a resilient but also a fairer world post-COVID, and not leaving anyone behind, in particular promoting social cohesion and investing in community-led resistance and resilience. Third, we have to embrace and enhance open science in the digital age. The digital revolution has completely transformed the way in which knowledge and information are stored, acquired, and communicated. We must accelerate access to the open record of science, open scientific engagement, open data, an open science movement promoting unhindered access to knowledge. And then thirdly, there is a massive potential to drive transformative systems with strong links to multidisciplinarity, sharing of information, strengthening capacity, and cooperation. So there's a great deal to be gained from developing and strengthening open science. I'd like to just comment on sustainability in the digital age, which is an initiative to explore the opportunities and challenges of leveraging digital capabilities to drive transformative system changes for a sustainable and equitable world. Related to this is the Montreal Statement on Sustainability in the Digital Age, which is a Future Earth initiative and which has been endorsed by the International Science Council. It sets out 5 key areas, which you see on the right-hand side, 5 key areas of action with a connection to digital-enabled transformative actions. I come now to the 4th area that I would like to highlight as being amongst the key missions of the scientific community. And that relates to trust in science among policymakers and, importantly, in society generally. Scientists have a role in the public discourse, and that includes the policymaking environment, to disseminate scientific knowledge in an accessible and comprehensible way, to defend the scientific method and articulate the values of science, and to convey how science works, and to engage in advocacy for the scientific method, consensus explaining uncertainty in science. I'm sorry. Without trust, we can get nowhere in guiding policymakers and ensuring that the population understands scientific developments and their impact on society, the economy, and the lives of individuals. There is a further context here, which some have referred to as an infodemic, a kind of epidemic of information. We are experiencing a barrage of information, and particularly now during the COVID pandemic. And what is a real concern is that within that, there are substantial amounts of misinformation, which is false or misleading information, and disinformation, which is the deliberate spread of false information. These cast doubt, on the need for scientific understanding. They undermine efforts to build a robust global science system. They present challenges to the scientific consensus, for example, on climate change, on genetic modification, on vaccination, to give some examples. And they seriously threaten the scientific underpinnings of actions towards the SDGs and in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. So all of these represent significant threats and pose major challenges for the scientific community. It is therefore essential that we, as a scientific community, engage in effective science communication. So we need to rethink the way in which scientists communicate to non-scientists, to broader society, to policymakers. This is a topic, if you like, that is at the nexus of science education, public outreach, sociology, behavioral sciences. We have to develop effective responses to the anti-science movement and environment. We have to ensure that policymakers and the general public are able to distinguish between scientific consensus and pseudoscience. And then finally, it is vital in doing so to understand, to respect the feelings of individuals, of communities, their moral intuitions, the cultural contexts. And you see on the right-hand side a copy, an image of a book, Seeds of Science, which is about exactly this, about why the scientific community has not in the past gone about communication with respect to GMOs in the right way, adopting an approach that is haughty, that is aggressive, rather than getting to understand communities and getting communities to understand the science behind GMOs, and therefore placing them in a position in which they can understand and make decisions about themselves, about their lives. So if I may conclude then, in summarizing the key components of the mission and value of the scientific community. One, working towards greater inclusivity and closer cooperation and integration. Two, the need to revisit the goals post-COVID, that is the Sustainable Development Goals. Thirdly, to embrace and enhance open science in the digital age. And fourthly, to enhance trust in science through effective public engagement. So with that, I thank you very much, and I congratulate you on, first of all, having such an important conference and proceeding in these very difficult times virtually so that we all are able to engage. And I wish you all the very best. So thank you very much.